I think it's live. Hello and welcome here. So today I am talking about a question that I get so often, a question that I get from people whether they're in their 20s all the way till their 70s, and it doesn't matter what people are doing in their life. Sometimes it is people who have jobs that are highly intellectual, whether this is academics or people working in offices or in the IT service, there's computer kind of jobs, or whether this is people who work in an industry where they need to be physically fit, where this is gardening and landscaping and things like that. Or truck drivers, where you have to be able to focus for long distances and don't fall asleep, right? Hopefully. Or parents, people on disability pensions, people who are retired. And the question is, should I be on medication for my complex PTSD? Do I need to? Should I increase the dose, decrease the dose? Should I get off it? And these kind of questions. And this is so important. So I thought, let's do a video on this and let me know if this is something that you are deciding for yourself right now. Because this is, like I said, this is extremely important to me. Okay, this is why I'm going to share how I was thinking through this for myself to come to the right decision for myself, how I help my clients to think through those the decisions as well. So I'll share those processes that I go through for myself, and then at the end I have a very key question for you that I really think everyone must ask themselves. I don't often use that question, but or that word must in anything, but I think this is so key that everyone should do. But first I want to really highlight that if you don't know me, I am Tanja Windecker. Yes, I do have a doctorate, so I'm Dr. Tanja Windecker, but I'm not a doctor as in I cannot prescribe medication, or I'm not a pharmacist, but my research, I have a doctorate from the research field, so I am in the medical field, and I love research in that way. So, but I have a very good understanding of pharmacology because I studied it, and my PhD is in internal medicine. So, but what is also unique is that I have a lived experience of complex PTSD, and I was on a ton of medication, especially in my early 30s. And so I want to talk a little bit about that as well, but mainly on how I help myself to get to a decision for myself. But I want to mention one thing first, because I do come from the research field and I love my research, but there's that time lag. Anything that we find out in the research world, it sometimes takes 5 or even 15 years before it gets into the practice, into the doctor's office, before a doctor changes the way they do something, or they introduce something new, or any of that, right? So if you take, for example, the SSRIs, the medication antidepressants, like people know Zoloft or Prozac or escitalopram, Lexapro, those type of medications, they're often called SSRIs. A lot of people are on them, right? In the research world, in the last 5 or 10 years, there's been a lot of research into them finding a link between SSRIs and people having osteoporosis, right? And in recent years, there's been a big push for SSRIs being listed as a medication that has a potential or may cause osteoporosis, and there's a lot of resistance, as you can imagine, because there's a lot of people on SSRIs. We put children on them, right? Everyone knows, even if you don't take them, you know someone who is on them, right? It's just such a common medication. So I really want to highlight this, and this is one of the reasons I really left the research field. I spent 2 decades at universities, researching. I was in the academia world, I was tutoring, and there I loved it, but I was so disheartened and so by this lag, this delay in what we know from research and how it is going to be implemented in the real world, right? And that is so important, because side effects is one of the things. Okay, but now getting into how I decided for myself, or what process, how I think through that to make sure this is the right decision, because this is for any medication. By the way, not just for treating your complex PTSD. A lot of us are on medication to treat other chronic illnesses and things like that. But what we do in the medical field, or most doctors, hopefully, if you have a good doctor, does, is they're looking at, when you're taking a medication, what is the benefit of you taking the medication, and what is the side effect, like I just said, or that risk of you having osteoporosis. Which one outweighs? If the benefit outweighs the side effect, then it's obviously a yes. But if the side effects are creeping up and the side effects are actually causing you more harm, or a decreasing quality of life and things like that, then it's like the doctors might actually suggest, maybe this is not the right medication for you. Maybe we need to switch to a different brand or a different type of medication that does something similar. This is why it's so important that you discuss with your doctor the side effects that you have. The minute you get on something, to really say, hey, this is what's been changing for me, right? Because if we continue on the SSRIs, because so many people are on them, and I was on the maximum doses of the escitalopram for over a decade, right? And I had the changes that happened for me in my body was that I had some really heavy bleeding. My menstrual cycles were really heavy, and there was some bruising and things like that. So there were side effects, and sweating. I was sweating so much, right? But at that point, I was in a crisis situation. I hated living. All I was thinking about is dying. So the side effects and the benefits were perhaps, it was good. But as I healed and I got better, those side effects, they really got to me. And I had really bad irritable bowel. And a lot of people don't know, but the SSRIs, people say there's that chemical imbalance that we have that causes depression. Even known from a research field, we know that a lot of people who have childhood trauma and depression from childhood trauma, it's usually not a chemical imbalance as such. There's other things that cause our depression, right? And there's very few, I actually haven't met anyone who had a long-term benefit from being on SSRIs. I don't know about you, but I was on maximum doses for over a decade, and I still was depressed a lot of time through that time. It's not quite that that effective, but the SSRIs, so they're working on the serotonins, and serotonin is that neurotransmitter in our brain. But serotonin is also a hormone in our body. It is in other parts in our body. It is in our circulation, in the blood, hence it changed the way my bleeding, like the easy bruising and the heavy cycles. But you know where the most serotonin is in your body? It's in your gut. It's in your gut. And I didn't realize that for the longest time myself. And I'm a researcher, and I've studied this, and I was totally oblivious to that. But there's always this link, or people often say that there's a link between being depressed and having irritable bowel. Well, if there's so much serotonin and so many people who are depressed are on the SSRIs, is it then the depression that causes the irritable bowel, or is it the medication? So in my case, like I said, I was on all that medication for over 10 years. So I've been off medication for 4 years now. And as I got off the medication over the years, it took a couple of years, my body balanced out itself again, and it created some harmony within me again. And I no longer have that bleeding or that bruising, and my irritable bowel has gone. So for me, the irritable bowel was actually a side effect from the medication. Might not be for everyone, right? But we need to become aware of that. What symptoms are from my complex PTSD or the other chronic condition that you have? What's those symptoms? And what is actually a side effect from the medication? And that can sometimes be very blurry and very difficult to distinguish. That's why it's so important for you to have those conversations with your doctors there. They're the ones that will prescribe you that medication. Because depending on what kind of job you have, and that's what I had to look at for myself. Okay, right. So I'm on the medication because I was really not functioning at that time. And I sometimes wonder if I would have made it through my crisis without medication, right? So I'm very thankful that I had them there in that time. But they did make me very drowsy, and I was trying to study. I was finding it really hard to not fall asleep in lecture theatres. Maybe anyone can relate that there. So I know from someone else who is a truck driver, being on that medication did not work for him because it made him too drowsy to drive, to do his job. Maybe you have to operate some heavy machinery. It becomes really important to take into consideration. So is this the right medication for me? Am I okay to change jobs? Is that actually a benefit for me? Do I actually not like that job already anyway, and changing actually would be something good for me? So you have to think through those things as well, right? One other really key is to look at your life, not just what you're working in, but also for a lot of you, your parents, right? So that's a very difficult decision, and I really honor that, and I really think that we all should celebrate that. That you are a chain breaker, and that you stopping that generational trauma being passed on to the next child, because you taking the time and the determination and the effort that you have to really look at yourself and do some healing and change. So this is really important to you. Okay, so I celebrate you for that. This is so beautiful. And again, there's the decision here is yours, whether you're on medication or not. There's no right or wrong. Like, I have clients the exact opposite. One says, there's no way I would be without medication. I want to make sure that I don't react, that I don't put my PTSD symptoms and my triggers and pass this on to my child. I really need this right now. Well, the other person said that I can't be on medication. It feels like I can't be emotionally available to them, and it's really important that I'm fully present with them. So they both made a decision that was right for them, and that is key. The decision needs to feel good within you. And there's other components that come with it that I'll talk to as well. So I really want to highlight this, because sometimes people say I'm anti-medication because I got off it. No. There's a time and there's a place. It is very key. To always consider the bigger picture, right? Another thing that I really want you to consider is there any big transition, any big change coming up in your life? Because if there's something like, are you moving? Is it just like in a different place? Are you moving into a different state, different country? Are you changing careers? Or are you about to have a family? Are you thinking of having children? Those big changes. Again, for some people, going onto medication during or even in advance, ideally you want to do that before you start that big transition. Medication is the go. It really helps them regulate their nervous system, stay calm, and have a different experience of it. And for other people, it's like, especially when you're thinking about moving, right? So if you have your doctor here and that person prescribes your medication and stuff, and then you're moving and you would have to see a new doctor, is this the right time to start, or do you wait till you're in that new area, find a new doctor and do it then? I don't know. Okay. But this is something that you need to think through for yourself to know, how do I feel about those things? What feels right for me here? What feels good for me? What helps me to feel more confident? How do I have a sense of agency in this, right? So this is really key. And here is the most important that I really want you to listen to, right? Out of the whole thing, this is the most important thing. Medication is a tool on your healing journey. It's a tool. There's a lot of countries out there where people have no access to doctors, no access to medication, and they still have to manage, right? To manage your complex PTSD, it's a tool. So what I'd like you to do now is really look at your toolbox. Open that toolbox up and be really honest with yourself. What is in there? Is medication your only tool to help you be grounded again, calm down your nervous system, or is there something else in your toolbox? Right. And I'm not talking about a list of practices and tools that you copied off someone's website or you learned in some free YouTube video and you just put in there because it sounded good when you heard it. Not those tools. That's not what you want in there. You want tools and practices in there that you have tried out on a regular basis that had some benefit for you, that helped you to feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more settled, a little bit more grounded, a little bit more connected with your body, a little bit more closer to other people, whatever it is there, right? But you have tried that and it worked. Are there other things in that toolbox? Because if there is not, I especially if you're already on medication, I don't recommend you getting off that medication, because then you're left with nothing. And this is just like, you know, when you have a water pipe break in your house and it's better to have some old dodgy tool to try and fix that leak than having no tool whatsoever, right? And it's not just goes for medication. Some people, when you're using, for example, alcohol to help you calm and regulate and deal with your symptoms, if alcohol is the only tool you have in your toolbox, then don't give up drinking because then you're left with nothing. You want to add practices and tools in there, right? This is so important. This is what I help my clients with, to really find things that really work for you. And this is so key. Right. I never thought that my life would be anything like what it is now. Like I said, I used to hate myself. I used to drink. I used to do the binge purging. I had panic attacks. I was a hot mess. I was not functioning, right? And now I have so much calm and peace here. Life is beautiful, mostly, right? I still have some anxiety and things like that. I'm human, right? To be really honest. But if I have this experience, if I would give my toolbox to you, it might not work for you. And likewise, some of my friends who also have amazing lives and found their tools to work with, if they give me their toolbox, it's like, oh, I don't like this. This does not help me. So this is really key, to find things to put in your toolbox first to manage your symptoms before you taper off medication. And if you're not on medication just yet, then that is also equally important, to look in there and get curious. Allow yourself to be open and have that willingness to explore new things, that openness, that playfulness. And it's like, yeah, let me try some things out. You know, to start to trust within yourself a little bit again. I do a lot of work with my clients on this, and finding some agency within themselves and learning to connect with your body again, so you can find that connection to your own inner knowing, your own inner wisdom. You know, being able to listen to your body again, to know, oh, this doesn't feel right, or I need something different here. I need a bit of a change here, right? This is key. This is key. Okay? So I really want you to look at that toolbox and share with me too. What's in your toolbox? and let me know how you go when you really take out a piece of paper and go through this. How does it affect me if I would go on medication? If I increase it, decrease it, how would it impact my area? Whether this is me working or me being able to go out and look for work. Would it help me? Would it not help me? Would it help me with my parenting? How would it help me to feel about myself? You know, this is the key. This is the decision I really strongly believe needs to come from within you. This is not your psychiatrist telling you to go on medication, or your spouse telling you that you need to go on medication and stuff like that. This is really a decision that needs to come from within you. I feel really strongly about that. And I'm really curious about how you feel about that too. So please share with me in the comments. But so that was I could talk about this topic for hours, by the way. I had some notes here, some prompts, so that I don't go off tangent here and talk for too long. But I do hope you found this helpful. And as always, sending you lots and lots of love and rainbows to brighten up the tough times just a little. See you guys. Bye.